Chapter 1. Eyes Beneath the Stage Lights. Night fell over London, but the streets around Mayfair never slept. The flashing lights of Fashion Week signs shimmered like lost stars, illuminating the cobbled streets and sleek glass buildings. Harrison Mitchell stood inside the flagship showroom of Mitchell & Company, hands in his pockets, his sharp gaze scanning through the large glass panels overlooking the city. Below, the crowd bustled, journalists, VIPs, and fashion enthusiasts, all flocking to the runways where his brand was about to debut its latest collection. But tonight, his mind wasn't on the designs or the stage lights. It was stuck on an old piece of paper resting on his desk, the shareholder contract left behind by his father, the founder of Mitchell & Company, before he passed away 7 years ago. Harrison stepped toward the desk, his fingers brushing over the bolded words on the front page. Harrison James Mitchell must marry before his 35th birthday to retain ownership of 51% of Mitchell & Company. Otherwise, his shares will be transferred to existing shareholders according to their respective ownership percentages. His fists clenched, nails pressing into his palms. Time was running out, only a few weeks remained until his 35th birthday. If he didn't meet the condition, Victoria Reynolds, the woman who had once betrayed him, driven his father to a stroke, and nearly destroyed the company, would have the chance to manipulate everything he had bled to build. But Harrison wasn't one to surrender easily. 7 years ago, when his father died, he had rebuilt Mitchell & Company from the ashes, with nothing but sheer talent and determination. He wasn't about to let Victoria win, no matter how much this damn contract forced him into a game he had no intention of playing. His eyes flicked back to his laptop screen, where the PR team had just sent over a report on the new collection's promotional campaign. With the sharp instincts of a seasoned CEO, he quickly spotted a minor flaw in the strategy, one that could be exploited by competitors. "Send me a revised version within an hour," he typed swiftly, his tone firm and unwavering. He wouldn't let anything slip out of his control. Not now, when all eyes were on him and Mitchell & Company. A vibration on the desk interrupted his thoughts. His phone lit up with a message from Richard Chen, his lawyer and the only friend he trusted. "I found someone who can help you. She'll be there in 10 minutes. Harrison frowned, tossing the phone onto the desk with a soft thud. Help? He didn't need pity or half-baked solutions. But Richard wasn't an idiot, and if he had a plan, it was worth hearing out. Arms crossed, Harrison fixed his cold gaze on the door, waiting to see what this so-called solution would be. A soft knock on the door pulled him from his thoughts. "Come in," Harrison said, his voice deep and dry, as if all emotions had long been locked away. The door opened, and Richard stepped in with his usual confident smile. But it wasn't him who made Harrison pause. It was the woman walking in behind him. She wore a worn-out denim jacket, her brown hair tied up in a slightly messy ponytail, and she carried a thick sketchbook in her arms. No makeup, no high heels. She didn't look like someone who belonged in his world of luxury. But her eyes, bright and filled with unwavering confidence, caught him off guard. There was something about her that made it impossible to look away. "Harrison, this is Lila Bennett," Richard introduced, excitement in his voice. "A freelance designer and the person who can help you get through this contract situation." Lila stepped forward, placing the sketchbook firmly on the desk with the decisiveness of someone used to skeptical gazes like his. "I can help you get through this, Mr. Mitchell," she said, her voice clear and unwavering. "I know your situation, and I know how to turn it into an advantage." Harrison crossed his arms, assessing her from head to toe. A freelance designer? She looked more like a street artist than someone who could solve a fashion empire's crisis, but he wasn't one to judge based on appearances. Tilting his head slightly, he spoke, his voice cold. "An advantage? What exactly do you know about my situation that makes you think you can say that?" Lila didn't flinch. Her gaze locked onto his, a silent yet firm challenge. "I know you need someone to play the role of your wife to keep your shares," she stated. "And I know how to make it look real, not just to the media, but to your shareholders. I'm good at creating stories, and I can help you tell yours." She paused for a moment, then gave a subtle, knowing smile. "You don't have to believe me yet. Just try me." Harrison turned to Richard, his expression demanding an explanation. "Where the hell did you find this woman?" Richard simply shrugged, signaling that Harrison should hear her out. Harrison exhaled sharply, leaning back against the desk, his tone still cold. Let's say I agree. This is purely a transaction. You do your job, I pay you, and no one crosses the line into my personal life. Understood? Lila nodded, her gaze steady. Understood, Mr. Mitchell. Then why do you want to do this? Harrison asked, his voice dropping lower, laced with curiosity. He wasn't used to people voluntarily stepping into his mess without a clear motive. Did she want money? Fame? Or was there something he hadn't seen yet? Lila was silent for a second before answering. I have my reasons. She didn't elaborate, but for a brief moment, something flickered in her eyes, a shadow of sadness, like an untold story she wasn't ready to share. Harrison frowned, an odd feeling creeping into his chest. She was hiding something, but he didn't have time to dig into it. He needed a solution, and if she could deliver, he'd take it at least for now. All right, he said, his voice dry. Where do you start? Lila gave a small smile, opened her sketchbook, and pulled out her phone. Right now. She swiftly created a fake Instagram account under the name Harrison and Lila and uploaded an old photo of Harrison from last year's Fashion Week, subtly edited to include the faint silhouette of a woman, likely her, standing next to him. The caption was short but sweet. Love is the greatest inspiration, B and A. She turned the screen toward him. The first step is media coverage. We need them to believe this before the shareholders start asking questions. Harrison raised an eyebrow, looking at the phone screen. The post had already garnered dozens of likes within seconds, and the hashtag number Mitchell Power Couple was starting to spread. You're fast, he admitted, surprised despite himself, but he quickly regained his composure. Don't think this is enough. Fashion media isn't easy to fool, and neither are my shareholders. I know, Lila replied confidently. That's why I've prepared a story. We met at a small exhibition in Manchester. I was an emerging designer, and you were drawn to my ideas. Simple but convincing. I'll send out a press release tomorrow morning. She lowered her gaze to her sketchbook, adjusting a design with swift, precise strokes, as if working under pressure was second nature to her. Harrison studied her, the showroom lights casting soft highlights on her delicate features and those unusually bright eyes. He couldn't deny it, she was talented. With a CEO's sharp instincts, he could see that she wasn't just quick-witted, she was meticulous, a rare trait in the often superficial world of fashion. But what unsettled him was her dedication. She was too invested in this for a temporary contract, and that didn't align with what he had learned over 7 years, experience that taught him no one did anything without a motive. Where did you work before this? He asked suddenly, his voice breaking the silence, laced with suspicion. Lila looked up, hesitating for a split second. I'm freelance, she said simply. Worked with a few small brands, nothing major. Harrison smirked, unconvinced. Freelance, yet you know how to handle media like this? You don't seem like a rookie. He stepped closer, his gaze scrutinizing her as if trying to see through whatever facade she was putting up. Lila gave a small smile but didn't argue. She simply lowered her head and continued adjusting her sketch, leaving Harrison with unanswered questions. He stepped onto the showroom balcony, inhaling the crisp London air. Below, the dazzling lights of Fashion Week continued to shine, but inside him, something unfamiliar stirred. Lila Bennett was nothing like Victorian-aught seductive, not flashy, but there was something about her that he couldn't ignore. Was it her confidence, her mystery, or just the fleeting sadness in her eyes when she spoke of her own reasons? Richard joined him on the balcony, clapping a hand on his shoulder. Well, not bad, right? Harrison gave a slight nod, his voice cold. She's useful, but I won't let anyone outmaneuver me, not even her. Richard chuckled. Relax, I checked her out. She's clean. But if you don't like her, send her away. You're Harrison Mitchell after all. You never lose. Harrison didn't reply, his gaze drifting back toward the showroom, where Lila still sat under the warm glow of the lights, her hand moving swiftly over her sketchpad. She looked up, accidentally catching his gaze through the glass. For a moment, time stood still. Her eyes didn't shy away, didn't challenge, just held a quiet gentleness, as if there was something she wanted to say but couldn't. Harrison turned away, telling himself, She's unlike anyone I've met, but I won't be swayed that easily. Yet deep down, he knew one thing. For the first time in 7 years, someone had made him want to look a little longer. Welcome to Soul Stories. Life can be overwhelming, but here we share heartfelt tales to bring you peace, joy, and inspiration. Your support, every comment, like, and follow means the world to us. It motivates us to create more meaningful and uplifting stories just for you. Did our latest story touch your heart? Leave a "I am happy" in the comments if you agree. Subscribe now and be part of a community that spreads love, kindness, and positivity. Let's make every day a little brighter together. Chapter 2. Late Nights and the Warmth of Hands. London had long fallen into darkness, but the headquarters of Mitchell & Company still shone like a gem in the heart of the city. Harrison Mitchell stood in the middle of the conference room, his sharp gaze sweeping over the design team, who were hunched over desks covered in sketches and fabric samples. A serious flaw had just been discovered in the latest holiday collection. The stitching on the signature coats wasn't strong enough and easily unraveled during testing. To Harrison, this wasn't just a technical issue. It was a stain on his brand's reputation, a weakness that a competitor like Reynolds Lux could exploit on every front. "We don't have time to fix each piece individually," Harrison said, his voice deep and decisive, cutting through the tense silence. "I want the entire batch rechecked within 48 hours. If necessary, bring in extra workers from the Leeds factory. Not a single coat leaves here with that defect. Understood?" The team nodded, no one daring to argue. They knew Harrison wasn't the kind of leader who accepted compromise. She had revived Mitchell & Company from the ashes 7 years ago, with unmatched determination and talent. One hesitant voice spoke up. "But sir, the deadline." "Then make it work," Harrison cut in immediately. "I don't pay you for excuses." He turned back to the table, picking up a sketch, his eyes as sharp as a blade. He wasn't just a CEO, he knew every stitch, every seam, every tiny detail in his designs. That was why Mitchell & Company had survived the scandal Victoria Reynolds had left behind, and he wasn't about to let anyone, not even his own team, damage his brand. As the designers hurried off to carry out his orders, Harrison sat down, rubbing his temple. Fatigue flickered for a moment, but was quickly suppressed. The next evening, the product launch at the Savoy unfolded in a tense but glamorous atmosphere. Harrison stood on stage, cameras flashing incessantly, his voice steady as he introduced the new handbag line. But just as he was about to read his speech, a PR assistant rushed up, whispering urgently, "Sir, the speech was printed incorrectly. The ending is missing." Harrison frowned, but before he could react, Lila Bennett emerged from the wings, holding out a fresh piece of paper. "Use this," she said softly yet firmly. Harrison glanced at it. The speech had been revised. It was shorter, sharper, and the closing line now held a poignant touch. "Every bag tells a story, and we craft ours with heart." He looked at Lila, momentarily surprised. There she stood in her simple denim jacket among a sea of luxury, yet her confidence was undeniable. "You're fast," he murmured, voice low, before stepping up to the microphone and delivering the speech with effortless charm. The audience erupted into applause, and almost immediately the hashtag number sign, Mitchell Power Couple, began trending on Instagram, thanks to a PR post Lila had set up the night before. "She's smart," Harrison thought, "but I don't need to rely on anyone." Yet deep down, a small part of him had started to pay more attention to her. A few nights later, while London was asleep, Harrison remained at the Mitchell & Company showroom, alone with stacks of sketches and fabric samples for the next collection. The desk lamp cast a glow over his face, highlighting the sharp angles and the deep contemplation in his eyes. He disliked going home. His massive penthouse only made the silence heavier, the loneliness more pronounced. After 7 years of building walls around himself, he had grown used to the solitude. Here, surrounded by fabrics and design blueprints, he had control, the only thing he still trusted. The showroom door creaked open, and Lila stepped in, carrying a steaming cup of coffee. Harrison looked up, frowning. "Why are you still here? It's late." "I saw the lights on," she said simply, setting the cup down in front of him. "You work too late. I figured you could use this." Her gaze drifted over the sketch he was studying, a new handbag design. She pointed at the strap. "This won't work." The metal clasp is too sharp, it'll cut into the leather over time. You should switch to a hidden hinge. It'll be more durable and refined. Harrison followed her finger, scrutinizing the design. She was right. A small but crucial flaw, one his design team had overlooked. His brow furrowed slightly as he looked back at her. You understand design? Lila smiled lightly, pulling out a chair across from him, careful to keep just enough distance to not intrude on his space. I taught myself, she said, her voice gentle yet confident. I like experimenting. I also saw this mistake in an old competitor's design. You wouldn't want to repeat their error, would you? Harrison studied her, the sharpness in his eyes shifting just slightly towards something resembling admiration. He set his pen down, pulling the sketch toward him. All right, he said, his tone still authoritative but lacking its usual coldness. Fix it with me. Lila nodded, moving her chair closer, and together they bent over the blueprint, refining the design. Under the soft showroom lights, their heads leaned in, their strokes blending into one another, an unexpected harmony forming between them. As they sketched, his hand accidentally brushed against hers as they both reached for the same pencil. Harrison froze. The warmth of her fingertips seeped into his skin, sending an unexpected jolt through him, making his heart skip a beat. He looked up, meeting her gaze, steady, unchallenging, but soft and warm. You're not sleeping? He asked, his voice slightly rough, as if trying to mask the unfamiliar feeling rising inside him. Lila smiled, her eyes shimmering under the dim light. I wanted to stay and look at the designs, she replied, her voice quiet yet sincere, like a whisper meant only for him. Harrison didn't respond. He simply watched her for a moment longer before turning back to the sketch. But a rare thing happened. His lips curved ever so slightly. A smile. One so fleeting, he didn't even realize it himself. They worked late into the night, and when Lila eventually dozed off at the table, exhaustion overtaking her, Harrison set his pencil down. He looked at her. Her brown hair had fallen over one side of her face, her breathing steady, peaceful, almost childlike. Standing up, he slipped off his suit jacket and gently draped it over her shoulders. His movements were careful, as if afraid to wake her, and when the fabric settled over her, a strange warmth spread in his chest, a feeling long forgotten. The next morning, as a light drizzle fell over London, Harrison and Lila left the showroom together. He held an umbrella, shielding her from the rain as they stepped onto the drowsy streets. Suddenly, Lila slipped on the wet pavement. With reflexes as sharp as ever, Harrison caught her wrist, pulling her close. Careful, he murmured, his deep voice laced with concern. I can't afford to lose my best asset. Lila's cheeks flushed. She looked up at him, her heart hammering in her chest. His hand was still wrapped firmly around hers, his warmth seeping into her skin. Their eyes locked, and for a brief moment, the world around them faded, the rain forming a delicate curtain between them and the rest of reality. Thank you, she whispered, her voice so soft the rain almost drowned it out. But Harrison heard her. He didn't let go right away. Instead, he simply guided her forward, his grip steady, his mind unwillingly drawn into an emotion he didn't want to name. That evening, as Harrison checked his company emails in preparation for an upcoming business trip, something caught his eye. A message from Lila, sent at midnight. It was addressed to a fabric supplier in Manchester. The content was brief. Send an additional batch of wool immediately. Keep the source confidential. Harrison's brows furrowed. Bennett Threads? Who was she contacting? Memories of Victoria's betrayal from 7 years ago resurface. Her secret phone calls, her feigned dedication before she stabbed him in the back. For a moment, doubt crept in. Then he glanced at his hand, the same hand that had held hers in the rain, still remembering the warmth of her touch. A different emotion stirred. She's not like Victoria, he told himself. But the suspicion lingered, overshadowed only by something even stronger, something he wasn't ready to define. He stood up, walking onto the showroom balcony, watching the rain shimmer against the London streets. And he thought of her, the way she had rushed to fix his speech, the way she had stayed up with him, side by side in the quiet hours of the night, the way she had smiled when he draped his jacket over her. I'm not used to this feeling, he murmured, gripping the balcony railing. But I like it. Deep within him, something unfamiliar had begun to take root. Something he wasn't ready to admit. But it was love. Chapter 3, Confessions Under the Paris Sky. London Fashion Week glowed like a vibrant masterpiece, with the XL Convention Center bathed in flashing lights and the murmurs of the crowd. Harrison Mitchell stood on stage, his sharp gaze sweeping over the VIP rows, where journalists and distinguished guests awaited the grand unveiling of Mitchell & Company's latest accessory line. Dressed in a flawlessly tailored black suit, he exuded confidence and authority, the mark of a CEO who had led his brand out of the shadows 7 years ago. But today he knew the spotlight wasn't just on the collection, it was on him. The show unfolded seamlessly, earning praise from industry critics and fashion insiders alike, until a journalist suddenly stood up, their voice cutting through the air. "Mr. Mitchell, rumors suggest you are on the verge of losing control of Mitchell & Company due to a secret shareholder clause. What do you have to say about this?" The crowd fell silent, all eyes locking on to him. Harrison clenched his fists in his pockets, but his expression remained unshaken. With the composure of a leader forged through countless storms, he let out a faint smile, his voice deep and steady. "Rumors exist when people can't compete," he said smoothly. "Mitchell & Company is stronger than ever, and I am still at the helm. Let's focus on this collection. That is my answer." Applause erupted, but just as he was about to step down, a familiar sound echoed from the side stage, the sharp click of red high heels. Victoria Reynolds emerged, her smirk dripping with mockery. "This fake wedding won't save you, Harrison," she called out, her voice syrupy yet razor sharp. "Everyone knows your brand is sinking." The crowd stirred, whispers spreading, phones lifted to capture the moment. Harrison's jaw tightened, anger flashing in his eyes, but before he could counter, Lila Bennett suddenly stepped forward. Her fingers brushed against his hand just for a second, but enough to make him pause. Then she walked up to the microphone. "Victoria," Lila said, her voice calm yet captivating, "you do know how to make things interesting, but you're wrong." Her gaze remained steady, unwavering. "Our wedding isn't about saving a brand," she continued. "It's about celebrating love through creativity. Harrison and I have sketched ideas together, debated over every cut, every detail. Mitchell & Company isn't sinking, it's soaring, thanks to this man." The audience erupted into applause while Victoria's face paled. With a scowl, she turned on her heels and stormed off. Harrison watched Lila, a flicker of surprise mixed with admiration in his gaze. As they stepped off stage, he murmured, "You're quick, but I could have handled it." Lila smiled, her eyes bright. "I know," she said, "but I wanted to stand by you." Harrison didn't respond, but the corner of his lips curved upward. A rare smile, one she was beginning to realize was just for her. 3 days later, Harrison took Lila to Paris on an urgent business trip. A major French supplier had refused to deliver the cashmere wool for Mitchell & Company's winter collection, threatening the entire production timeline. With his characteristic decisiveness, Harrison didn't wait for the procurement team. He flew to Paris himself to negotiate, and he wanted Lila by his side. "You understand design," he said on the plane, his deep voice calm yet firm. "I need your eyes." The meeting at a textile factory on the outskirts of Paris was tense, but Harrison's negotiation skills were unmatched. Standing before the factory's director, his tone was cold and unwavering. "If you refuse to deliver, I'll find another supplier, and I'll make sure no one in Europe works with you again," he stated flatly. "But if you meet the deadline, Mitchell & Company will sign a long-term contract, your choice." Overwhelmed by his authority, the supplier quickly agreed. Lila stood beside him, admiration flickering in her eyes as he turned back to her, throwing a self-satisfied glance. "It's done." After the meeting, instead of heading straight back, Harrison led Lila on a walk along the Seine. The evening light bathed Paris in a golden glow, the river shimmering like silk. He stopped at a street vendor, bought a single red rose, and without warning, tucked it into her hair. "It suits you," he murmured, his voice low and warm, his gaze softer than she had ever seen. Lila touched the flower, her cheeks turning pink as she smiled. "You're more romantic than I expected." A light drizzle began to fall. Harrison opened an umbrella, pulling her closer beneath it. They walked in comfortable silence, the raindrops mingling with the steady rhythm of their footsteps, their hearts. He led her into a small cafe by the river, where golden light spilled from the windows, casting a warm glow over the cobblestone streets. Sitting across from each other, they wrapped their hands around steaming cups of coffee, the heat seeping into their fingers. Harrison studied her through the mist of his cup. "When did you first fall in love with fashion?" he asked, his voice deep, curious. Lila smiled, but her eyes drifted into the past, lost in memories. "Since I was little," she began softly, "but I had nothing to pursue it with." Her voice grew quieter. "I grew up with my mother, homeless, penniless, sleeping on park benches in the freezing rain. She collected trash just to earn a few coins, but one day she collapsed from hunger, holding me close, crying, 'I'm sorry, I can't take care of you.'" Lila swallowed, blinking away the sting in her eyes. "I was 15. I wanted to quit school to work, but no one would hire a kid like me. And then someone appeared." Her voice faltered for a second. "He saw my mother collapse near a shop, called an ambulance, and later gave her a job as a sales assistant. Because of him, my mother was able to support me through college. And that's when I fell in love with fashion. It became my way of giving back." She paused, her eyes shimmering, but she didn't reveal the man's identity. Harrison watched her carefully, then spoke, his voice unexpectedly rough. "I once lived for passion too," he admitted, "but I lost it because of someone I trusted." Lila tilted her head, waiting. Harrison took a slow breath, as if unlocking a door he had kept sealed for years. "Victoria," he said at last. "She was everything to me once. I loved her, trusted her. I let her help me develop the spring-summer collection 7 years ago." His hands curled slightly around his cup. "But she stole my designs, sold them to a competitor right before the launch." His voice dropped lower, darker. "My father couldn't handle the shock. He had a stroke after the scandal, and he didn't survive." Harrison stared into his coffee, his expression unreadable. "I lost him, lost my faith in people, and from that moment on, I never let anyone get close again." Silence settled between them. Then Lila reached out, her fingers gently resting on his hand. Warm, steady. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But you're not alone." She squeezed his hand, her touch light yet unwavering. "I'm here, and I won't hurt you." They sat together, watching the rain slide down the cafe window, the quiet space between them filled with something unspoken but undeniable. A connection neither of them had expected. That night, back at their hotel in Paris, Harrison was reviewing documents when he overheard Lila's voice through the thin walls. A hushed phone call. "Hide the source," she whispered. "Don't let him find out." Harrison froze. Doubt sliced through him like a blade. Who was she talking to? Victoria? His mind reeled back to the late-night calls Victoria used to make before she betrayed him. But then, he remembered the way Lila's eyes had glowed with honesty when she spoke about her mother. The way she had smiled when he placed the rose in her hair. His fingers brushed over his wrist, as if still feeling the warmth of her touch from earlier that day. She's not like Victoria, he told himself. Yet the suspicion lingered, drowned out only by something even stronger, a feeling he wasn't ready to name. Chapter 4. The Breaking Point of Trust. Early morning in London was shrouded in thick fog, like a curtain hiding secrets on the verge of unraveling. Inside the high-rise office of Mitchell & Company, Harrison Mitchell sat motionless before his laptop screen. His bloodshot eyes, deprived of sleep, fixated on the glaring headline in front of him. His grip on the desk tightened, knuckles turning white. An Instagram post from the official account of Reynolds Lux had surfaced, its words sharp as a blade. Did Mitchell & Company copy our designs for their new collection? The truth will soon be revealed. Below the caption was a side-by-side comparison, a winter coat from Mitchell & Company's latest collection, placed next to an eerily similar piece from Reynolds Lux. The resemblance was undeniable, as if someone had orchestrated it. Harrison felt the blood rush to his head, his breath turning heavy. This wasn't just an attack on his reputation, something he could handle with his usual resilience. This was a direct assault on the company's shareholders, who had been flooding his phone with panicked calls demanding an explanation. He knew exactly who was behind it: Victoria Reynolds. She had mocked him at Fashion Week, but now she had escalated her game, striking at the very heart of the empire he had rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal 7 years ago. But this time, she had aimed at Lila, the woman he had allowed himself to love, the woman he had let in after years of locking his heart away. His phone buzzed, an email from Victoria. The subject line was brief, "Ask your fake wife." Harrison clicked it open, his blood running cold as he read. "Harrison, you're a fool to trust her. Lila Bennett isn't who you think she is. Ask her what she's hiding and why she got close to you. Here's the proof. Don't let yourself be deceived again like you were 7 years ago." Attached were photos and messages. A grainy image of Lila standing in the shadows at Fashion Week, phone in hand, her expression furtive. A screenshot of a conversation supposedly between her and VR. "The winter collection is ready to be sent over. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing." Harrison's chest tightened, his pulse hammering in his ears. And then, a memory surfaced. Paris. The hushed whisper he had overheard in the hotel. Hide the source. Don't let him find out. Back then, he had brushed aside his doubts, lost in the warmth of her leaning against him, in the sincerity of her eyes as they talked by the Seine. But now, with Victoria's email staring back at him, everything aligned into a picture he couldn't ignore. Or at least that's what he thought. Lila, a spy. The thought sliced through him like a blade, tearing apart everything he had built with her. The late nights spent sketching together, the hand-holding in the rain, the kiss he had pressed against her hair in Paris. A storm brewed in his chest, fury clashing with something far more painful. The fear that he had been wrong, horribly, disastrously wrong. "Where is she?" he growled, his voice thunderous in the empty office. A startled assistant outside the door stammered, Miss Bennett is at the showroom, sir." Harrison pushed back his chair, the screech of metal against tile sharp as a blade, and stormed out. His footsteps echoed down the hallway, his mind consumed by rage and betrayal. He had loved her, had let himself believe in her, and now he feared. He had made the same mistake all over again. The showroom lights were bright, but the air was thick with the weight of the coming storm. Harrison shoved the door open. Lila sat at the design table, sketching a new dress, her expression focused. At the sound of his footsteps, she glanced up. A small smile touched her lips, just like always. "You're back early," she said, voice light, unaware of the tempest raging in his eyes. "I was just about to send you this sketch." Early morning London was veiled in thick fog, a curtain concealing secrets on the verge of shattering. Inside his high-rise office at Mitchell & Company, Harrison Mitchell sat frozen before his laptop screen. His eyes, bloodshot from lack of sleep, bore into the image flashing across the display. His hands clenched the edge of the desk so tightly that his knuckles turned white. An Instagram post from Reynolds Lux had surfaced. Its words were sharp as a blade. "Did Mitchell & Company copy our designs for their new collection? The truth will soon be revealed." Below the caption was an image. A winter coat from Mitchell & Company's latest line, placed side by side with an almost identical piece from Reynolds Lux. The resemblance was undeniable. It looked orchestrated. Harrison felt the blood pound in his head, his breathing heavy and strained. This wasn't just an attack on his reputation, something he could handle. This was a direct assault on his shareholders, who had been bombarding his phone with frantic calls demanding answers. He knew exactly who was behind it. Victoria Reynolds. She had mocked him at Fashion Week, and now she had played an even filthier card striking at the empire he had rebuilt from betrayal 7 years ago. But this time, she had aimed at Lila, the woman he had let in, the woman he had allowed himself to love. His phone buzzed. An email from Victoria. The subject line was short, "Ask your fake wife." Harrison clicked it open, ice creeping through his veins as he read. "Harrison, you're a fool to trust her. Lila Bennett isn't who you think she is. Ask her what she's hiding and why she got close to you. Here's the proof. Don't be deceived again like you were 7 years ago." Attached were photos and messages. A grainy image of Lila, tucked away in the shadows at Fashion Week, phone in hand, her expression furtive. A screenshot of a supposed conversation between her and VR. "The winter collection is ready to be sent over. Don't worry, he doesn't suspect a thing." Harrison's chest tightened, his pulse hammering. And then, a memory surfaced. Paris. The hushed whisper he had overheard in the hotel. "Hide the source. Don't let him find out. Back then, he had brushed aside his doubts, lost in the warmth of her leaning against him, in the sincerity of her voice as they spoke by the Seine. But now, with Victoria's email staring back at him, everything aligned into a picture he couldn't ignore, or at least that's what he thought. Lila, a spy, the thought sliced through him like a blade, tearing apart everything he had built with her. The late nights spent sketching together, the hand-holding in the rain, the kiss he had pressed against her hair in Paris. A storm raged in his chest for he clashing with something far worse. Betrayal. "Where is she?" he roared, his voice thundering through the empty office. A startled assistant outside stammered, "Miss Bennett is in the showroom, sir." Harrison pushed back his chair with a screech, storming out the door. His footsteps echoed down the hall, his mind drowning in rage and pain. He had loved her, had let himself believe in her, and now he feared. He had been a fool. The showroom was brightly lit, but the air felt heavy, thick with the weight of what was coming. Harrison shoved the door open. Lila sat at the design table sketching a new dress, her expression focused. At the sound of his footsteps, she glanced up, smiling softly, just like always. "You're back early," she said, voice light, unaware of the storm brewing in his eyes. "I was just about to send you this sketch." She never got to finish. Harrison strode forward and slammed his laptop onto the table, the impact echoing through the room. The screen glowed with Victoria's email, the photos, the messages. "Explain this," he shouted, his voice shaking with rage, his eyes blazing like fire. "You're Victoria's spy, aren't you? I let you in, I loved you, and you stabbed me in the back?" Lila paled. Her eyes widened as she looked from him to the screen, her hands trembling. She shot to her feet. No, it's not what you think." "Not what I think?" Harrison cut her off, his voice cold. But beneath it was something raw, something broken. "Do you take me for a fool? This is your message to Victoria. The collection is ready to be sent over." "What exactly were you sending? My designs? And last night in Paris, I heard you whispering on the phone, telling someone to hide something because if he finds out, everything will fall apart. I was him, wasn't I? What game are you playing, Lila?" Lila shook her head, tears spilling down her cheeks. Her voice cracked, but her conviction didn't waver. "No, Harrison, I swear I didn't do this." She stepped toward him, hands trembling as if reaching for Heimlich to freeze under the fury in his gaze. "You have to believe me. I didn't betray you." Harrison turned away, unable to look into those tear-filled eyes. His voice was low, rough, filled with a pain that cut deeper than his anger. "Didn't do anything wrong?" he scoffed bitterly. "Then explain this. Sneaking around behind my back, texting my enemy, sabotaging everything I built? I was a fool to trust you, a fool to open my heart to you, a fool to think you were different from Victoria." His hand slammed onto the table. A coffee cup crashed to the floor, shattering like his trust. "You're worse than she was." "Harrison, please listen to me," Lila cried, desperation cracking her voice. For the first time, she called him by his name. "I didn't do this. Those messages aren't mine. I don't know how Victoria got them. And the call in Paris, it wasn't what you think. Please, you have to believe me." Tears streamed down her face, but her eyes held steady, pleading for him to see the truth through his anger. Harrison yanked his hand away from her grasp. "Enough!" he roared. "I don't want to hear another word from you." His chest heaved. "I trusted you. I let you in. And now all I feel is like a damn fool. Get out. Now before I have security, throw you out." He turned away, gripping the table so hard his fingers ached, forcing himself not to look at her, not to see the pain in her eyes, the same eyes that had melted him in Paris. Now they only deepened the ache in his chest. Lila stood motionless, tears dripping onto the marble floor, her shoulders trembling. She said nothing, just turned and walked away, her steps hollow, lifeless. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving Harrison alone in a silence more suffocating than ever before. He collapsed into a chair, his hands gripping his head. For the first time in 7 years, tears burned his eyes. He had loved her, and he had destroyed her. Chapter 5. Confrontation and Burning Love. London was draped in a gray afternoon, thick fog wrapping around its towering buildings. But inside Mitchell and Company's virtual boardroom, the air was scorching with tension. Harrison Mitchell sat before the massive screen, his sharp eyes locked onto the faces of dozens of shareholders on Zoom people who had just weathered the storm of Victoria Reynolds' rumors. He wore a black suit, exuding cold authority, but inside him was a whirlwind of emotions: rage, regret, and a love so intense he could no longer deny it. That morning, after throwing Lila out with cruel words, Richard had uncovered part of the truth. She wasn't a spy. She was the heir of Charles Langston, and she had been silently helping him all along. But Harrison knew that to save his company and to win Lila back, he had to act, not just rely on others, but use his own strength. "Thank you all for joining this emergency meeting," Harrison began, his voice deep, steady, razor sharp. "Recent rumors have caused panic, but today I will set the record straight." He leaned forward. "Victoria Reynolds accused Mitchell and Company of copying Reynolds Lux's designs, but I have proof she was the one who orchestrated this." He shared his screen. A series of internal emails from Reynolds Lux appeared, documents he had retrieved himself that morning, with help from his IT team and the skills he had sharpened while rebuilding his company. "This," Harrison said coolly, "is an email she sent to her PR team, instructing them to spread rumors on Instagram to pressure my shareholders." A click. Another file appeared. "This is her transaction history showing she hired a freelance designer to replicate our collection before its release." The Zoom screen split in half. On one side, Harrison. On the other, Victoria. Her smug smile faltered. "Harrison, you're pathetic," she purred, though there was a tremor in her voice. "Do you think the shareholders are fools? Lila Bennett was your spy. She sent the designs to me. What do you have to say to that?" Harrison clenched his fists under the table. Before he could answer, a new window popped up. Lila Bennett had joined the call. Her face filled the screen, her eyes red-rimmed but unwavering with determination. Harrison froze and his heart pounded. She came back? After everything he said? But Lila wasn't looking at him. Her gaze was fixed on Victoria. "Victoria, you called me a spy?" Lila's voice was calm, yet razor sharp. She clicked her screen. More evidence appeared. "These," she said, "are the messages you sent to a hacker, instructing them to fabricate the text between us." Click, another file. "This is the invoice you paid to copy the collection." Click. "And this," her voice remained steady, but silent tears slipped down her cheeks, "is a recording of you discussing how to spread the rumor." Gasps erupted from the board members. Voices whispered through the speakers. Victoria's face drained of color. You're lying," she screeched, her voice cracking. "Who would believe this nonsense?" "I do," Harrison cut in. His voice was low, controlled, deadly cold. "Because I verified it myself." His gaze bore into hers like a blade. "The emails came from your server. The payments are tied to your account. The recording has been authenticated." "You wanted to play this game, Victoria." He leaned in. "But I won't let you win this time." A senior shareholder spoke up. "If this is true, I move to remove Victoria Reynolds from the board immediately." The others nodded in agreement. Victoria screamed something, but Harrison simply signaled to mute her mic. The meeting ended. The final decision: Victoria was forced to relinquish her shares, and a lawsuit for corporate fraud awaited her. As the Zoom screen faded, Harrison sat back, his hands trembling slightly. He turned to Richard. "Where is she?" Richard smirked. "She called from a cafe near St. James's Park. I convinced her to join the meeting. But if you want her back, you have to go to her yourself." St. James's Park was bathed in golden sunlight filtering through the trees, casting dappled shadows on the cobbled paths. But the sky had begun to darken, heavy with the promise of rain. Harrison walked briskly, his heart pounding. Over the past few days, he had fallen in love with Lila. From the night she brought him coffee at the showroom, from the way her hand fit in his under the London rain, from the moment she leaned against him by the Seine. He had fought against it, denied it. But today, after nearly losing her to his own blind distrust, he knew his heart could not bear to let her go. He found her sitting on a bench, cradling a now cold cup of coffee, her gaze lost in the rippling lake. She looked smaller than ever in her worn denim jacket, fragile after everything that had happened this morning. "Lila," he called softly, stepping closer. She looked up, surprise flickering in her eyes before she quickly lowered them. I didn't think you would come," she murmured, voice barely above a whisper. Harrison didn't sit. Instead, he dropped to one knee before her, taking her hands in his own. His eyes burned with intensity. For the first time, they were tender. "I love you," he said, his voice deep, raw with emotion. "I don't know when it started, maybe that night in Paris, when you rested your head on my shoulder. Maybe when you made me laugh in the rain." He swallowed hard. "For so long, I locked myself away, built walls to keep everyone out. After being betrayed, I told myself I would never open my heart again." His grip on her hands tightened. "I was wrong. I was so wrong to doubt you, to hurt you with my words." He took a shaky breath. "Forgive me, Lila. Stay with me. Not because of the contract, but because I need you." Tears spilled down Lila's cheeks. "Harrison," she whispered, her voice breaking, "I never wanted to leave." Then she fell into his arms, sobbing into his shoulder. The first drops of rain began to fall, misting around them like a veil. Harrison pulled her up, held her tighter, and kissed her. A kiss that was desperate, fiery, and deep, as if he could erase all the pain, all the distance, all the mistakes that had kept them apart. The rain grew heavier, soaking them both, but they didn't move, didn't let go. As if, in this moment, the whole world had disappeared, leaving only them. Harrison pulled out his phone, opened an Instagram live stream on Mitchell & Company's official account. "Let the world see. She's everything to me," he said hoarsely, his eyes locked on Lila. The live stream exploded with likes, but he didn't care. He only cared about her. That night, in his penthouse overlooking the glittering London Eye, they sat on the sofa, fingers entwined. The only sound was the soft patter of rain against the glass. Harrison gazed at Lila, still overwhelmed by everything that had happened. He pulled her into his arms, his fingers gently threading through her damp brown hair. "I said terrible things this morning," he murmured, his voice rough with guilt. "I called you a traitor. I told you I was afraid of you." His throat tightened. "I doubted you because I was scared. Scared that if I let myself love again, I'd be destroyed, just like when Victoria betrayed me." He exhaled shakily. "I was a fool, Lila. I'm sorry." Lila tilted her face up, resting a warm palm against his cheek. "I don't blame you," she whispered. "I know how much you've been hurt, but I never wanted to be the one to hurt you." She hesitated, then took a deep breath. "I didn't just fight for you because of a contract, Harrison. I wanted to stay by your side. I wanted to heal you." Her eyes softened. "And I never expected to fall for you, but I did. I fell for the way you lead with strength, the way you act so distant, but care so deeply." She paused. Then with a steady voice she said, "I am the illegitimate daughter of Charles Langston, the late fashion mogul. I inherited his fortune and connections. I built Bennett threads from his legacy." Harrison's brows furrowed, but he remained silent. Lila took a trembling breath. "I turned down a major contract in Milan to stay here." Her fingers curled tighter around his. "Because you are my light, Harrison." Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out an old faded photograph. It was of her mother, Margaret Bennett, wearing a Mitchell & Company employee uniform, her smile weary but radiant. Harrison froze. Lila's voice wavered. 10 years ago, my mother and I were starving in a park. We had been evicted, left homeless, sleeping on benches in the rain. One night, she collapsed from hunger while collecting trash, holding me close, apologizing for not being able to take care of me. Tears shimmered in her eyes. And then, a man saved us. Her grip on the photo tightened. He called an ambulance, gave my mother a job at Mitchell & Company. Her breath hitched. Because of him, I had a future. She looked up, her voice cracking. That man was you, Harrison. Harrison's heart stopped. His mind reeled back to that rainy night, to the frail woman he had helped, to the small girl who had clutched her mother's hand. His vision blurred. Lila had been that little girl. He had saved her, and now she had saved him. A choked sound escaped his throat as he pulled her into his arms, holding her so tightly it was as if he feared she would vanish. "I didn't know," his voice broke. "I didn't know it was you." His grip on her tightened. "I love you, and I will never, never let you go again." Then he kissed her, fiercely, deeply, pouring into it every ounce of regret, love, and devotion that had been buried for too long. Under the glow of the London skyline, they held on to each other. Her warmth chased away the shadows he had lived with for years. Harrison pulled back just enough to whisper against her lips, "Your mother would be proud you found me." Lila smiled through her tears, resting her forehead against his chest. "She'd be proud I chose you." They sat there watching the London eye turn against the night sky, fingers laced together, hearts no longer afraid. Chapter 6. The Wedding and Forever. A gentle spring afternoon in London, golden sunlight streamed through the trees outside the flagship showroom of Mitchell & Company, illuminating the elegant displays of luxury clothing and accessories. Harrison Mitchell stood at the heart of it all, but today he wasn't dressed in his usual cold, sharp black suit. Instead, he wore a simple white shirt, sleeves rolled up, his eyes burning with a different kind of determination. Before him, Lila Bennett stood quietly, holding a thick stack of sketches for the upcoming fall collection. Her eyes sparkled as they met his. Employees, designers, PR staff, and executives gathered around, buzzing with curiosity and anticipation. Then, Harrison took a step closer, and to Lila's shock, he dropped to one knee. Gasps filled the room as he pulled a small velvet box from his pocket and opened it, revealing a simple yet exquisite sapphire ring that shimmered as brilliantly as her eyes. "Lila," he said, his voice deep, steady, warm, filling the silent room, "you are the one I want to walk through life with. From the night you brought me coffee, from the way your hand fit in mine under the London rain, from the moment you leaned on my shoulder in Paris, you changed me. You brought me back to life after 7 years of closing my heart." He exhaled, his grip tightening around hers. "I won't promise you the world, but I will promise you my world. To love you, to protect you. Will you marry me?" Lila's hands trembled as she covered her mouth, tears glistening in her eyes. But her smile, radiant as the spring sun, said it all. She nodded, her voice breaking. "Yes, yes, Harrison, I will." The room erupted into applause. Some whistled, some wiped away tears. Harrison stood, sliding the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms. He kissed her deep and unhurried, before whispering against her ear, "I've waited too long to say this." They decided on a wedding the very next week. Not extravagant, not ostentatious, but simple and intimate, at St. James's Park, the place where Harrison had found her in the rain, begging for her forgiveness. A serene morning beneath lush green trees, Lila walked toward him in a simple white dress, her brown hair cascading down her shoulders, a single red rose tucked behind her ear. Just like that night in Paris, the night he had first opened his heart to her. Harrison waited, dressed in a crisp white shirt and a soft gray vest. His eyes never left her, as if she was his entire world. Mitchell & Company employees stood as witnesses, circling a small wooden table where Richard Chen, officiating the ceremony, read their vows. "Harrison, do you promise to love and protect Lila forever?" Richard asked, grinning mischievously. Harrison squeezed Lila's hands, his voice deep and steady. "I do, with all my heart." Richard turned to Lila. "And you, Lila?" She smiled, eyes shining. "I do, with all my life." They exchanged rings, and as Richard declared, "You may now kiss the bride," Harrison pulled her close and kissed her, deeply, passionately, a kiss that sealed every promise. Cheers and applause erupted around them. Rain began to fall, light at first, then heavier, a blessing from the sky. But they didn't move, didn't let go. They let the rain soak them, just like that day they found each other again. After the wedding, Harrison and Lila didn't just begin their life as husband and wife. They built an empire together. Mitchell & Company merged with Bennett Threads, Lila's own brand, creating a powerhouse of fashion that combined Harrison's luxury craftsmanship with Lila's sustainable creativity. Harrison, with his sharp leadership, drove the company's expansion. Lila, with her connections and talent, opened new markets and redefined their vision. They worked late nights together at the showroom, some nights filled with heated debates, others with quiet laughter. But every night ended the same, with a hand held tight, with a kiss shared in the soft glow of desk lamps. 1 year later, on a crisp autumn evening, their newly rebranded fashion house, Mitchell Bennett, celebrated its first anniversary. The showroom was bathed in golden light. A long line of customers stretched outside, eager to purchase their first commemorative collection. Harrison stood at the center, his gaze sweeping over the dazzling displays, until his eyes landed on her. Lila stood beside a mannequin, adjusting the drape of a dress, her expression glowing with the same passion she had the day they first met. Harrison walked up behind her, wrapped his arms around her waist, and murmured against her ear, "From doubt, you gave me forever." Lila turned, smiling as she pressed a hand against his chest. "And from fear, you gave me a home." They held each other, their eyes filled with everything. The nights of uncertainty, the fights, the rain, the stolen kisses. Paris, St. James's Park, the moment he had knelt before her. Harrison tilted her chin up and kissed her, deep and slow, under the glow of the showroom lights. Applause broke out from employees and customers alike, but they didn't care. In that moment, there was only them. As the kiss ended, Harrison laced his fingers through hers and led her onto the showroom's balcony. London stretched before them, glowing under a million city lights, a silent witness to their journey, from doubt to love to forever. He held her close, whispering, "I won't promise you the world, Lila, but I promise you my world." She rested her head against his chest, her voice soft but unwavering. "And I promise to stay in it forever." They stood there, hands entwined, hearts steady. As the London Eye spun in the distance, a quiet reminder of how far they had come, of how love, against all odds, had become the most beautiful thing they had ever created. Thank you for following this heartfelt story of Soul Stories channel. Share your thoughts about the story in the comments below. If you believe that true love can withstand all trials and sometimes begins in the simplest of ways, don't forget to hit the like button and share this story with your friends. To never miss out on touching and meaningful stories, subscribe to our channel and help us spread messages of love and warmth to everyone. Let's cherish the beautiful moments of life and love together.